A few weeks ago, I released a video that was a deep dive on how I believe Mike Einziger recorded his guitar tone for the Incubus album, Morning View. I realised that a big part of this guitar tone is Mike's Mesa Boogie Trem-O-Verb combos, and this amp is hard to find, quite expensive, and I'm pretty sure is the weight of 2 African elephants. So with this in mind, I believe I have found 2 plugins that can mimic the modes of the Trem-O-Verb incredibly well, so you can get these tones easily at home for yourself. For any heavy tones, I've found that the Neural DSP Archetype Petrucci plugin works brilliantly, and the Kali Jewel by Nembrini Audio is great for the cleaner tones from Morning View. The clean amp that comes with Archetype Petrucci stays far too clean, even with the gain pushed all the way up, and the amp I'm using for the heavier tones has too much gain and doesn't clean up so well with the gain backed off, and that is why I'm using the Kali Jewel for the cleaner sounds. And on the other side of this, I'm not using the Kali Jewel for heavier tones as it doesn't have the mid boost toggle that we need for Mike's Morning View tone like Archetype Petrucci does. However, for science and make yourself tones, either plugin would do a great job. These plugins aren't super cheap, but Nembrini has very regular sales, and I've bought most of their stuff at around $20 to $30. And Neural DSP have a couple of sales throughout the year as well, so I would keep an eye out for those to save yourself some money. Now for a shameless plug. The other part of this puzzle is the cab and microphone combination, and for this I'm using my own IR pack that I meticulously EQ'd to match the guitar tones from Morning View. Now to be totally transparent for this video, I have added some extra EQ to the examples that I will show later in the video to closer match the recorded versions. My IR pack got me most of the way, but I needed to boost and cut some frequencies to get a better match to what I was hearing compared to Mike's recorded tracks. If you are interested in this IR pack, you can purchase these from the link in the description of this video. And before we jump into the plugins and the IR pack, we need to set up our levels going into our interface. There was a somewhat heated debate recently about what the gain on your interface should be set to. There is a great video by Ghost Note Audio that I have linked in the description of this video, but in that video he basically shows we need to give the interface a healthy amount of gain and then reduce the input in the plugin itself to get the best signal to noise ratio and to get a better response from the amp sim itself. The way he achieved this was a little confusing, but in his own pinned comment he mentions using a loudness meter to set the gain. So I loaded up a loudness meter in my DAW, turned off any other plugins and played as hard as possible without clipping the signal, and took a note of the loudest part and where the dial was on my interface. I then set my interface to 0 on the gain and again played as hard as possible. I found the difference between the louder signal and the quieter one, and this was the amount I needed to reduce the input gain in the plugin. There is also a spreadsheet made by Ed S that shows an extra amount of attenuation we need depending on your interface. So for me, I have an Audient ID14, and for Neural DSP and Nembrini plugins, I need a further reduction of 0.2. I hope I have explained that correctly and that it makes sense for you watching this. Setting your levels correctly at the start really does make a big difference to the sound so that you aren't hitting the amp with extra gain from the start, making the tone sound totally different from what you are trying to achieve. Now let's take a look at the plugins. I'll start with the Kali Jewel and the cleaner settings that I used. I'm using the clean channel, which is channel 1, but I have it set to the pushed mode. Then for the controls, I have these set as follows. Presence is all the way up on 10, master is at 6.5, gain is set to 3, bass is on 6, mid is at 5.5, and treble is set to 8.6. Now depending on the song, I have tweaked these values, but these settings should start you off in a good spot. You may need to add or take away EQ amounts and gain depending on the song and your pickups. Now for the heavier tones, I'm using the second amp of Archetype Petrucci, and the controls are set as follows. Gain is at 10 o'clock, tight is at 7 o'clock, bass is at 2 o'clock, middle is at 12 o'clock, the mid boost switch is on, treble is just back from 2 o'clock, presence is at 1 o'clock, and master and level are set at 12 o'clock. Again, you may need to tweak some settings, but this should be a great starting point. Both of these plugins have IR loaders, but I have these bypassed and I'm using Pulse by Lancaster Audio. I found this was loading the IRs a bit better as the other plugins seem to be adding extra frequencies that I didn't want. Now this could be me losing my mind, but they definitely sounded different to me. You don't have to do this, as both the Neural DSP and Nembrini plugins have an area for you to load custom IRs, but Pulse is totally free. so it's up to you how you choose to load the IRs. If I need more signal, I am using the level control in Pulse to turn the volume up. I must admit, I'm really not sure the best way to do this, if it should be at the IR stage, or if I should use the output control of the plugin, or maybe they do the exact same job. I'm really not too sure, so if anyone out there knows for certain what the best practice is, please let me know. Now let's create some tones. I have used a program called Moises to strip just the guitar from the song, and that is what I've matched my guitar to. I'll go through some songs that I didn't give examples of in my last video, and I'll switch between my guitar and Mike's. Now these clips are going to be quite short, so hopefully I don't get flagged up for copyright like I did on my other video. But anyway, I hope you enjoy these sound examples. And there we have it. Hopefully you agree that these plugins can get extremely close to Mike's Morning View tone. Like I mentioned earlier, I have used my IR pack plus some extra EQ to shape these tones. I used the digital EQ to achieve this, and most songs only required some small tweaks to get closer to Mike's recorded versions. I actually didn't need to use any extra EQ at all with the echo example that we just heard. Again, if you are interested in this IR pack, the link is on screen now. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope this helps you get these wonderful tones at home too. Take care, my friends.